Hello! We're here to do the first lecture of Unit 4, which is on World War I. The first thing I want you to do is press pause right now and write down all this stuff. Right now. Stop the video. Write this down. Okay, I hope you did that. You need to know that in World War II, the two opposing sides were the Allies and the Central Powers. The Allies were also known as the Triple Entente. The Allies were France, Britain, Russia, Italy, and Japan. The Triple Entente part of that is France, Britain, and Russia. France, Britain, and Russia are the Triple Entente. When they were joined by Italy and Japan, all of them together are known as the Allies. The Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. And a couple other people joined in with them too, but these are the important ones. So I hope you are ready for some drama, because World War I is a whole bunch of drama. Like I always say, I want you to think of these countries as just some person. Think about me telling this story like I'm talking to you about kids in your class. And each one of the names of the country is just some kid in your class. It'll help you and it'll make the story more enjoyable that way. Okay, so in 1914, do you remember in the past few lectures when I kept building up all this tension and we would always get to 1914 and everybody was about to explode? Hey, guess where we are now? 1914. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the Triple Alliance. So this is before World War I, leading up to it. A while ago, there had been this war called the Franco-Prussian War. And we all know that Prussia is where Germany is now. In between, when this Franco-Prussian War, Franco is France. So this is France versus Prussia. But in between when this war happened and the beginning of World War I is when all the Prussian areas joined together and became Germany. So now we're talking about France and Germany, but Germany is what Prussia used to be. No, Prussia is what Germany used to be. So when you hear Germany, think Prussia. So, sorry about all that. This can be confusing. I'm trying to make it as clear as I can. Once upon a time, long time ago, there was a Franco-Prussian War. Prussia won the war and took some land away from France. And wow, France is mad about that. It's 1914 and France is still mad. Well, Germany knows that. Germany knows France is mad at them. Germany knows France is just waiting for their opportunity to attack and to get their land back. So what Germany did was Germany went to Austria-Hungary and to Italy and told them, hey, let's make a deal. If anyone attacks you, Austria-Hungary, we, Germany, and Italy will help to defend you. And if anyone attacks you, Italy, Austro-Hungary and Germany will defend you. And if anyone attacks me, Germany, then Austro-Hungary and you, Italy, you have to help me. And Germany did that. There are plenty of reasons to do that, but they knew that one day France might come after them. So they were preparing for that. And that deal, they both said, okay, Austria-Hungary and Italy were like, all right, that's cool. And they made the Triple Alliance. That's not my Mrs. Givens speak. That's the official name of the deal they made. It's the Triple Alliance. That was in 1882. So that was quite a while before 1914. The Franco-Prussian War had happened way before. So in 1882, Germany, Austria, and Italy made the Triple Alliance. Okay. Then in 1893, so 11 years later, France formed a similar alliance with Russia. France made an alliance with Russia. And it was the same kind of deal. Hey, if somebody attacks you, I'm going to help protect you. If somebody attacks me, you help protect me. Then in 1904, France became buddies with Britain. And so now France is friends with Britain, that's up here, and Russia, that's over here. And that is these three. That's the Triple Entente. Triple Entente. And entente is a French word for like alliance, agreement. So these three are the Triple Alliance, and these three are the Triple Entente. Now, during this time, we're building up to 1914. We're getting a lot closer to 1914 now. Germany is rapidly growing. We talked about this before. It was even a question on a test, I remember. Which were the two countries that became the economic leaders and left England behind? That was the United States and Germany, right? So Germany is becoming more and more developed, more and more industrialized, becoming a richer nation, but they have this real self-esteem issue. They think, nobody respects me. Look at all this work I'm doing and nobody's acknowledging it. When you study really, really hard in school and you do really well in class and you get like a perfect score on the test, and when the teacher hands it back to you, instead of saying, wow, I'm so proud of you, the teacher just sets it on your desk. Like, I know that it makes a difference to you if I acknowledge that you did a good job, because we're all like that, and countries are like that. So Germany is doing better and better and better for itself, but Germany thinks that they're not being respected. Nobody's patting Germany on the back and saying, good boy, Germany, I'm so proud of you. And so it makes them upset. They're also afraid, Germany is afraid because Germany is looking at Russia and sees how quickly Russia is developing and is worried, because we also already know what about Russia. Russia is the most populous country in all of Europe. Russia has the most people. So if you get a country with the most people and suddenly they're all caught up with everyone else, what if they weren't good guys? What if they did something mean? Well, they could just destroy everyone. So, also, at the same time, France and Germany, they're mad at each other because both of them are trying to colonize the same places in Africa. Specifically, right now, it's Morocco. Of course, I don't have a map open, but I'd like to show you, just in case you don't know exactly where Morocco is. It is in Northwest Africa, really, really close to Spain. Let me back this out in just a second. There you go. Here's a better version of Africa. This space right here, Morocco, Germany, and France are both trying to colonize that area, and they're getting mad at each other. It's kind of happening all over here, but specifically this area right here, because look how close it is to Europe. Everybody wants this. It's like a gateway to Africa. Everybody wants to, well, France and Germany want to control that. And while that was happening, France was becoming friends with Britain. They had never really been friends before, but both of these countries dislike Germany. And if you know this, you as a teenage child know that you can make friends with someone just because you both don't like the same person. So France and Britain both didn't like Germany, and that brought them together. They became buddies over their mutual dislike of Germany. Now, while this was happening, also countries, this is especially Britain and Germany. Britain and Germany were both looking at each other and constantly suspicious of each other. Germany always thought that Britain was doing something behind their back and maybe buying a bunch of weapons, and Britain's gonna attack us. And Britain was always looking at Germany and thinking, oh, they're doing something wrong. They're sneaky. They're up to no good, and they might attack us sometime. And so Germany kept buying more and more weapons because they thought Britain was going to attack them. But Britain kept buying more and more weapons because they thought Germany was going to attack them, when in reality, neither one of them was making plans to attack the other one. But there was all this hype. There was all this hype, and it was even in the newspapers. Sensationalism. Sensationalism journalism is when the newspapers hype this stuff up and make it seem even bigger than it really is. So when people read the newspaper, it says Germany buying more weapons. Are they planning to attack us? And then the German newspapers would read, Britain buying more weapons. Are they planning to attack us? And so it gets all the people out on the streets that read the newspapers going, oh my goodness, is Germany about to attack us? Or is Britain about to attack us? Are we going to war? And all of this kept, like, it was making people more and more anxious. And another thing that was happening was the rise of militarism, which is the glorification of the military. I know this is the same. I mean, I think this is the same in every country. I'm American. It doesn't matter if you're American or not, but do you kind of think that like soldiers are really cool? And if your dad had been in the army, wouldn't you kind of brag and carry that, like, yeah, my dad fought in the whatever war, or my brother signed up for the army and he's gonna go fight for my country. And it's like this thing that we glorify. Well, all of that started at this time, was this like looking up to the army and thinking that soldiers were these really cool people. All of that was happening right around 1914. Whew, there's another little bit that I have to talk to you about. Russia, Russia, big Russia, had this idea called Pan-Slavism. What's a Slav, Mrs. Gibbons? Well, a Slav is an ethnic group. Well, that's the Slavs. The Slavs are an ethnic group. They speak not all the exact same language, but similar languages. And they're spread all across the Balkans. So let me zoom in here a little bit. Close this. Okay, so Bulgaria and Romania, these are both Slavic nations. Romanian has their own language, and Bulgarian is its own language, but they can kind of more or less understand each other. And Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, all through here, not Greece, but these lands down here, and Poland and Russia, all of these, they're all Slavic nations. And which means they all have come from originally the same ethnic group. And Russia had this idea of Pan-Slavism. Pan means total, all across. Russia thought that all Slavs should be one nation. One nation. One giant Slavic nation. And while they weren't all one nation, Russia still felt that they should protect all Slavic nations. So if any one Slavic nation were to get in trouble, they could always look to Russia for help, because Russia would come and say, oh, you're one of us, we'll help you. Just like, I don't know, if I'm speaking to the Koreans in the class right now. If you were on holiday and you in some other country, let's say you're on holiday in Spain, and you see a Korean person on the sidewalk that, I don't know, looks lost, you would probably help them. because you're Korean and they're Korean, and you would feel kind of this, oh, this person's like me, I should help them. Well, it's the same thing for all the rest of you. When we see someone that looks like us, we're drawn towards them. And so Russia wanted all the Slavic nations to be as one, and Russia would help all the Slavic nations. Now, nationalism, my go-to word for this whole like 100-year period, nationalism was rising up all through Germany and the Balkan states. I don't want you to forget that France was still mad at Germany about taking land away from them in the Franco-Prussian War. Okay, there were two empires that really, really feared nationalism, and those were the Austria-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire. Now remember, at this time, these empires are ancient. These empires have been around for hundreds and 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 hundreds of years. And it's only now, it's only recently that this awful nationalism thing has risen up and is making little bits of their empire try to break away from them. And they are not happy about this. So while that was happening, I have to pull up, sorry, I'm trying to, here we go, great, okay. I'm trying to find a picture, add images. I'm sorry, this is taking a little bit. Uh-oh. Okay. All right. Okay, yay. I think you can see this. Okay, so here's Austro-Hungary, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Down here is the Ottoman Empire. So right here, there's a country called Bosnia. And there are a whole bunch of Serbians that live in Bosnia. So it's not on this map, but you have to see there's Bosnia right here. Bosnia is part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But a bunch of Serbians live in Bosnia. Well, Serbia is trying to break away. They're doing nationalism. They want to have a giant Slavic state. They want to join a whole bunch of these countries here and make one large Slavic nation. So, the Archduke named Francis Ferdinand Archduke, I'm sorry, let me erase a little bit of this. The Archduke of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, named Francis Ferdinand, Francis Ferdinand is one of the most important names you will ever learn in all of secondary school. I mean it. This is one of the most important names you will learn in the next 4 years of your life. Learn the Archduke of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, Francis Ferdinand. You have to know this. You'll need to know this for the rest of your life. One of the most important names you'll learn in all of secondary, the Archduke of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, Francis Ferdinand. Okay, so he wants to go visit Bosnia. And he has been told, that's not a very good idea. There are a whole bunch of nationalist movements down there. There's a bunch of unrest. People aren't very happy with your uncle, the Emperor of Austria-Hungary right now. You got that? This guy is the nephew of the Emperor of the Austria-Hungarian Empire. He wants to visit Bosnia. People are like, not a very good idea. Well, he doesn't listen. And he went to visit Bosnia, and some Serbian terrorist, assassinated him. Those guys were from a group called Unity or Death. Pretty dark name. The name of their terrorist organization was Unity or Death, but it was also called AKA, also known as the Black Hand. And specifically, the guy's name was Gavrilo Princip, and it was on, sorry, I got to switch back over here, June 28th, 1914. I'm going to repeat all of this again. On June 28th, 1914, Gavrilo Princip, who was a member of Unity or Death, also known as the Black Hand, which was a Serbian terrorist group, assassinated the Archduke of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, Francis Ferdinand, while he was visiting Bosnia. Now, when the news got back from Bosnia to the Archduke's uncle, who was the emperor, he wasn't very cool with that, but he didn't really want to go to war. But his nation, his government, they kind of did want to go to war, because they thought they could use it as a chance to crush Serbia and their nationalism movement. Then his friends, Austria-Hungary is friends with Germany, and Germany is really mad about it. Like, Germany seems even more mad about it than Austria-Hungary is. And Germany wrote Austria a letter that basically was an open check. And an open check means you can do anything you want to Serbia and we will back you up. Anything you want to do. So what Austria-Hungary did was Austria-Hungary went to Serbia, well, wrote them a letter and said, This is what you have to do. You have to find anyone that had anything to do with that assassination, and you have to punish them. And you have to let us help you do that. And you have to put a stop to all nationalist movements. They've got to get with it that they are not going to get their huge Slavic state, and they got to stop it now. Well, Serbia agreed to some of the things, but not all of them. And when they did not agree to everything, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. So I know you probably got it, but I'm going to tell you all of that quickly again because it is so important. On June 28th, 1914, Gavrilo Princip, a member of Unity or Death, a terrorist group from Serbia, murdered the Archduke of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, Francis Ferdinand, while he was visiting Bosnia. Austria-Hungary was angry. Germany, who's their buddy, said, you can do anything at all that you want to do to Serbia, and we will back you up. Austria-Hungary gave Serbia this list of demands. These are things you have to do to make things okay with us. Serbia didn't do them all. And then Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Then, where am I on my notes? Sorry. Okay, so that was on July 28th, 1914, exactly a month. It was June 28th, 1914, that Francis Ferdinand was assassinated. On July 28th, so a month later, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Serbia asked for help from Russia because remember, Russia was like, I'm your big brother. I'll take care of all my little Slavic nations. So Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Serbia asked Russia for help. Then when Russia said yes, when Russia said yes, Germany declared war on Russia. You got all that? So Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Serbia asked Russia for help. And when Russia said yes, Germany declared war on Russia. That was on August 1st. So Francis Ferdinand is killed on June 28th. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia on July 28th. Serbia asks Russia for help. Russia says yes. And then Germany declares war on Russia on August 1st. And Germany is friends with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That's why they're doing all that, because like this friend attacked that friend, so that friend attacks that friend. So now Russia has called on France to help. Oh, I have to stop for a second. I have to stop my video for a second because my battery's gonna die. Okay, I'm back. Didn't mean to stop sharing the screen. Okay, All right, let's go again. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Serbia asked Russia for help. When Russia said yes, Germany declared war on Russia. Then Russia asked their friend France for help. Now, France saw this as their chance to get back at Germany for the Franco-Prussian War. Remember that thing that I mentioned twice before, that France always wanted to get back at them? They saw it as their chance to do that. So they said, yeah, we are in. Whew. Then Germany had told France that they had to stay out of it. Germany was like, you are not going to be in this war. Stay out of this. But France said, we are totally in. And when France came to help Russia, Germany declared war on France. At this time, Britain and Italy are staying out. We don't want to have anything to do with that. Then Germany, when Germany was trying to make their plan about what to do, Germany thought Russia was kind of backwards and they wouldn't be able to get their crap together and they wouldn't be able to get over here soon enough. So their plan was to attack France here on the Western Front. That means France was fighting this way. And so it was, Germany was going this way. So it was the beginning of the Western part of the war. So that was the Western front end of the war. Germany thought they'd come over here to France and they would easily destroy France. And once they destroyed France, all their soldiers would turn around and go back to Russia. So Germany just sent like a few soldiers over towards Russia, but they wanted to go into France first. But there's a little country right here called Belgium that's in between Germany and France. Belgium didn't have anything to do with the war. They didn't want anything to do with the war. They were like, we're staying out of this. But Germany marched straight through Belgium, like went to war, wanted to take them over, said, you're ours. And we're marching through Belgium to get to France. Well, that made Britain really mad. And that's when Britain jumped in and got on the side with Russia and France and Serbia. Okay. Italy still wasn't in it at this time. And it was August 3rd that Germany first attacked Belgium. And it was right after that it was August 4th that Britain declared war on Germany. Everything happened really, really fast. This is like a month, 34 days. It was 34 days between the Archduke being assassinated to Austria and Serbia and Russia and Germany and France and Belgium and Britain all in a war with each other. And it was pretty wild that everything happened so fast that like the diplomats, the government people that usually help like war not happen, they didn't even have time. It just exploded, boom, bam, everything was really fast. Everybody's fighting with everybody and there's soldiers everywhere and gunfire and people are dying. very, very quickly. Whew. So before this happened, think about everything we've talked about in the past 2 units. What was going on in Britain at this time? There was lots of social unrest, right? The factories were terrible places to be, and the poor were staying poor. Life wasn't getting any better. In Russia, there was a revolution going on. In really all over these areas, there was lots of social unrest. But when war broke out, suddenly everyone just forgot their problems and thought about the war. And people were excited. Young men were eager to sign up for the war, and women were like, yeah, baby, I love you. I'm so proud of you for going off to fight for our country. And children were waving flags of their country in the streets. And it was just kind of like suddenly there were no problems at home anymore. Nobody remembered their problems, and everybody was just looking at the war. But there was one famous British diplomat named Edward Grey. It's a British diplomat named Edward Grey, and he has a very famous saying: the lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime. And it's symbolism. I'm sure you've learned about symbolism in literature class. The lamps, this is like the Enlightenment, the people getting smarter and better and like progressing, and just the world becoming a better place. And he said, no, that's all stopped. We're just going back into war, and things aren't going to get better until I'm already gone. Okay, that was the end of the lecture. I want to go through this one more quick time because it is really, really serious for your personal understanding of world history, that you know how this worked. On June 28th, 1914, the Archduke of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, this was the nephew of the Emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was visiting Bosnia, where he was assassinated by someone from Serbia that was a nationalist fighter. He had great nationalist pride. He assassinated the Archduke. Germany told Austria-Hungary, we will defend you no matter what you do. Austria-Hungary didn't necessarily want to go to war. They gave Serbia a list of demands. You have to do all these things before we'll be okay. And Serbia didn't want to do them all. So Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Serbia asked for help from Big Brother Russia. And when Russia agreed to that, Germany declared war on Russia. Then Germany planned to go to France really quickly, and then I'm sorry, I forgot to say Russia asked France for help, and France said yes. Germany wanted to go quickly over to France and then turn around and go back to Russia. But to get to France, they had to go through Belgium. They marched through Belgium, And that's when Britain said, you are not marching through a neutral territory and killing people that didn't even want to be involved in the war. That is too far. Now we're involved. Okay. And all of that happened very, very quickly, like really fast. From the time of death, the first war, like declaration of war, was a month later. But within that month, this is a week. This is within 1 week, all these countries were at war with each other. Okay. Archduke of Austrian-Hungarian Empire, Francis Ferdinand.